What is up, everyone? I feel like I've been starting every video like that. Uh, Today we're talking about the takeWhile operator in RxJS. It's a really powerful operator. If you're not familiar with it, don't worry, we're going to dive into it. That's why you're here. And I just want to do a little bit of self-promotion real quick. This is going to be available on my blog, www.fullheapdeveloper.com. I will have the link in the description. Do not worry about it. So let's go ahead and dive into this. What is the takeWhile operator? Well, I like to think of the takeWhile operator as just a while loop, except it's used to filter out values from an observable. And what I mean by that is, in JavaScript and most other native languages, you have, the while keyword, and there's a condition, in our case, true. So this is just an infinite loop. And, then you perform some logic in here. And this is just going to run forever. I don't recommend running that. But that's the premise, right? You have a body of code that you want to execute while a condition is true. And as soon as this returns false, your loop is done. And at its core, takeWhile in RxJS is the same thing. So let's look. In our example, we have the Fibonacci sequence, and for all intents and purposes, it's just an array of values right now, guys. If you don't know what Fibonacci is, feel free to Google it. And we're using our takeWhile operator to filter out values that are less than or equal to 13. Sorry, not filter out. We're using our takeWhile operator to only include values that are less than or equal to 13. So any value past 21 will not be omitted here in our subscription. And let's see that in action. I actually have some live stuff going on right now with browser sync. So you'll see we get 0, we get 1 twice, 2, 3, 5, 8, and 13. And so we did get 13. We didn't get 21 and after. Perfect. This is a very simple example. I hope it makes sense to you. One thing I do want to point out is that this is not inclusive. This takeWhile is not inclusive by any means. So if I said just less than 13 and save it, you'll see that I don't get 13 in my log. And that surprises some people. And actually, it really annoys me because the most accepted answer on Stack Overflow so the question is, RxJS takeWhile but include the last value? The answer is that you include the last value in your condition, guys. If you want 13 to be there, you say less than or equal to. I don't know a scenario in which you wouldn't know the condition to be able to modify that. The accepted answer here, and this is what annoys me, is that this guy goes into using like concat map and multicasting, like some more advanced stuff, and I don't think it's necessary. I could be wrong. I could just be a jerk, but I think you'll always know what your condition is going to pass and when it's going to fail. I would just recommend changing that in your condition. Sorry, my rant's over. So let's jump into a little bit more of a practical example of takeWhile. What I want to do is, here's my goals of what I want to do. I want to create a quiz, and the quiz is timed. And I want to give instant feedback on input. So let's assume that so we're going to have an input. The quiz is going to be timed, so you can only enter things in that input for so long, and we're going to give instant feedback. Okay, and in our case, this is where takeWhile is going to come in, because we're going to be calling an API. And we don't want to do that unnecessarily. So once the timer's up, we're done providing feedback, right? So let's jump in. I'm actually going to copy and paste some code and then review it with you guys. So I know I just pasted a lot. Please don't be intimidated. We'll go over it line by line. I'm just declaring some variables at the top that I'll need. I'm getting the elements on the page that I'll need, and they just look like this. I have an input box and a time left counter. I have a variable that's tracking whether the timer is completed and how much time that we start with. I have 5 right now, just for purposes of testing and showing you guys repeatedly. That's why I made it so short. Obviously, a real quiz would be longer. And then the first thing I do is I update the time remaining with the variable 5. So you'll see it's just a function, and I'm just changing the inner text. So that's what the 0 is. That's what that function is doing. It's changing it to 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and 0. And then here's the interval that I'm using to actually do the countdown. So I'm taking the time and decrementing it, and then updating the DOM, again with our update time remaining function. And then I'm checking to see if we've completed the timer. Are we down to 0? If so, mark our time complete variable. Clear the interval, which is just the interval. If you're unfamiliar with how set interval works, you need to clear it later to prevent memory leaks. And then I'm disabling the input. So in our real world application, each value enter could be providing some feedback to the user. And then once it's done, we don't want to provide feedback anymore. And in our case, we could just listen to the input event and update the results on the page with our feedback. And this is where takeWhile is going to help us, because that's not enough. If you think about it, guys, people can edit the DOM. I just went in here, got rid of the disabled property, and then I can start editing this field again. What I don't want to happen is I don't want feedback to show up if it's not supposed to. So if they've gone in here and they've manipulated the DOM after the fact that we've disabled the input, I don't want to continue helping this person. They're cheating. So let's use takeWhile to prevent that. Right? So we are creating an observable, and we're just listening to our input element, timer input L, and we're listening to the input event. So we've created our observable from our input element, and we're using the takeWhile operator, and we're just filtering out. We're only including values as long as the timer is not complete. So this is going to return true as long as this is false. And so as soon as the timer completes here and this returns false, we're going to stop getting values in the subscription. And that's going to help us, because no longer can someone go in there, disable the property, and still get values, right? So here's what I mean. Let's take out takeWhile for now and show you exactly what I mean. So like, we have our log every time we enter something. So A, right? And then it disabled me because the timer ran out. But if someone's really technically savvy, they could go in here and they could continue, calling our API, which is exactly what this console.log is emulating. takeWhile is going to prevent that for us. So I add that back. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right, so we're disabled. Let's go ahead and enable it again. Except this time, nothing's happening. So that's great. We just prevented a user from manipulating our DOM and getting around showing feedback when it shouldn't be shown. And I know this example is a little bit contrived, but it does show how powerful it can be. I don't think that the documentation out there really does a good job of providing a real-world use case. And I just want to point out, like you might have noticed that this is complete didn't show up until I disabled the input and then added it back. Let's redo it so you can see that. So A, B, C. You'll notice I didn't get the is complete. It wasn't until after I went in here, got rid of the disabled property, and came back in here and started entering again, then it gave it to me. So the thing about that is you're not going to get this complete. And I want to tell you this in case you're relying on it. You're not going to get this unless your takeWhile ever returns false or the source observable completes. In our Fibonacci example, there was a finite numbers in our array, right? So it does complete, like there is an end to that sequence. In this case, we're creating an observable from an event, and this could go on for as long as the web page exists, right? So this could theoretically never complete, so we don't get it unless our takeWhile returns false. So that's why we don't get it until, you know, we're here, because it's never returned false. We disabled the input before it could ever return false. And that's why as soon as we get rid of the disabled attribute property and then add something in here, do we get it? Because this returned false. That's it, guys. If you need to contact me, please go to my website. Again, that's going to be in the description, fullheapdeveloper.com. Check out some of my other articles. I'm adding more stuff every day. I shouldn't say every day. I'm adding stuff every week. Keep me honest. There's a contact form. You won't see what I see. There's a contact form here. Fill it out. If you want me to get back to you, please enter your information. I don't require these things. I want it to be anonymous if you want it to be. But yeah, fill this out. Thanks, guys.